do this is to actually use these tools. Does anybody remember overhead projectors? That was when I first got my job here. That was what we had, and I had to print out my notes. Literally, my notes looked exactly like your notes, and I just put them on the page on the screen, and I put it up. But I had no videos, no pictures, no nothing. It was just notes and talking. And if this is slightly boring, imagine having none of the audio visual stuff that I've been able to add into this. Your pencils, your clothing, your glasses, your contacts, all those things are tools that you guys are using. In your labs, all those different tools that they have on there, again, physical capital, right? Things that you can physically use that are human made. This is now when we talk about water, the water we use, that's physical capital because we've adjusted it, we've altered it, we've manufactured it, right? The air in the building, what have we done to it? Sometimes well, sometimes not as well, depending on the temperatures. We try to heat it or we try to cool it, right? So we've altered it to help us out. The other aspect is human capital, right? Your knowledge. This is where you guys were extremely wise in your decision to come to the Career Center because you guys are providing yourself more human capital, or I should say, more advanced human capital in your field than your counterparts at your home schools. Right? Because your friends at your homeschool, and I've had a couple people have told me this, you leave your homeschool, and let's say you're in cosmetology here, you can go to a salon, it might take you a little bit to get some customers, but you can start right away with actually cutting people's hair and taking care of them, making some money, whereas your friend who gets the job at the exact same salon will have to be the hostess and stay at the front and make minimum wage until she goes to school or he goes through school to get the training. Right? You guys are leaving here with advanced knowledge beyond your friends. Right? Construction trades, that whole field, you can go out and get an apprenticeship right now. Anybody in construction trades? Okay, what do you know what the starting pay is?
Not really. No, I know
Okay.
It's more than 15.
Yeah, definitely more than 15. I've heard 20 sometimes. An apprenticeship, you're looking at $20-$25. And the building situation right now is pretty good. So there's jobs for sure. I know welding is another big one. If you know anything about welding, there are jobs galore. This is about 5 years ago. We had a warehouse or a factory here in Medina contact the Christian. So we need someone who just has a basic idea of welding. They don't have to be an expert because we'll teach them what we want them to do, but they just have to be aware of how to use the chemicals to make the torch work, and then we'll take it from there. Right? And they were starting at the time as $17, so I would imagine right now it's probably about $25 an hour in welding, just basics, right? Anybody in chef and restaurant in here? Because that's a whole other, just that whole field. What other visual VMI? Anybody in VMI? Okay. Graphics, and which one are you in?
Graphics.
You're in graphics, right? The design knowledge you'll have versus a friend who's going to go to college to get the, and you can go right into it.
I actually have a friend who wants to go into college for video stuff, and I'm like, you could just come here.
Yep. Yeah, it's a 2-year bump. I know anyone in sports medicine, because you guys will have additional training. Like I had somebody who said their first year at college, they were like, it was easy. The first class they had to take was like the easiest class because they had already done a lot of that stuff. Some of the certifications you guys will leave with, to be able to go right into the field. Again, you guys are human capital, translates directly almost sometimes, or a lot of the times into higher paying jobs because I'm just smarter. Right? So there was 2 people that I thought of when I was thinking about human capital. First one, have you ever heard of Stephen Hawking? Okay, Stephen Hawking recently passed away. One of the smartest men in the world at the time. At one point was looking at Einstein's equations and going, oh, okay, there's a couple issues with Einstein's equations, right? Einstein being genius, came up with his own form of radiation. It's called Hawking radiation. And it's about black holes. Does anybody any chance see the movie about Stephen Hawking? Theory of Everything. It's really pretty good if you ever get a chance. It's a decent movie. But at one point in time, he started coming down with symptoms of ALS, and by the time he passed, right before he passed away, he was completely motionless. I think he had the ability to like move his eyes slightly. And at one point, he had a computer that was hooked up to him that had the finger that he could tap, but then his finger wouldn't work anymore. So they had all sorts of technology attached to him. At one point, there was he actually made the comment that for his computer, his voice, he was upset when he first heard it because he wasn't British, because he's a British born and raised. So when you listen to him talk, it's a computer and it's an American version. It's not the British version. And then he didn't want to change it later on because then he was like, well, that's how everyone knows me. And no, that's the voice I use, so I'm not going to change it. But absolute genius, and was author of 2 books, 2 or 3 books, was very, very wealthy just because of his knowledge, right? Physically could move. The other one is Bezos. I'll show you guys the video of Bezos here in a second. Again, I think I mentioned yesterday, he is no longer the most wealthy. It was him and Elon Musk. Now Musk has kind of taken over. But Bezos still, I mean, $188 billion valued. That's pretty good, right? But they talk about how much money. There was one I found a while back. It was Bill Gates. Bill Gates is one of the top 10 wealthiest people in the world. But they were talking about and the amount of time it takes Bill Gates to tie his shoes. Yeah, he's made like $1.5 million just in interest from all of his investments. It's just crazy. And again, when you see Jeff Bezos, if you've ever seen him, he's not the most physically imposing guy. He's a small little guy. He's kind of nerdy a little bit, and super, super wealthy. Human capital. Right, so we'll watch this one, and this will take us to the end of class. So you guys can put your notes away.